At this point, Jinho couldn't handle much more and decided to follow the group. They were in an alley where James was escorting each guy, leaving them lying incapacitated on the ground one by one. Just as he was about to leave, he spotted Jinho. The kid hesitated for a moment, then seemed to want to play a trick, but was called back. James couldn't understand why this kid kept following him around, but Jinho, being naive, believed in following the teacher's instructions. No fighting, especially not against someone weaker. Suddenly, this life lesson turned James into a raging bull, wanting to pounce on the kid. However, in the blink of an eye, his punch was blocked by Jinho's lightning-fast reflexes. Jinho's kick was too fast, too dangerous, leaving James dumbfounded. Now, Jinho's serious face emerged, victorious smile on his lips. Seeing the kid dare to mock him made James seethe with anger, gritting his teeth. Determined not to lose, he stepped back, steadied himself, and tried to retaliate. But before he could do anything, Jinho was already in front of him, but below, landing a punch on James's abdomen. However, the well-behaved kid remembered he wasn't supposed to hit someone weaker. So he turned and walked away. Before James could ask him anything, Jinho arrived home and immediately went down to the basement. He took a deep breath, revealing his muscular parent's physique. Then he stared down. SetKang's mother's eyes, fading in and out before she could react. She was hit in the knee and arm. Then Jinho kicked, not only hitting them, but also knocking them to the ground. The little guy suddenly gasped as he remembered, determined not to be humiliated again. He stood up, starting his own training regimen. In Japan at this time, Rose and Jade, longtime friends, met again. So they chatted about everything under the sun. But the atmosphere inside was tense like a taut string. The two-headed demon had tasted the bitterness. So they sweated profusely, as if taking a bath. There was also Don, now the boss of the Meido gang, and the one who gathered them was the main character of them all. SetKang had appeared. He ordered Akira to take control to activate the projector. The image of a large stadium appeared, amazing everyone. It turned out SetKang would organize a match at the Osaka Stadium, and wanted this group to bring in some athletes to make it exciting. Of course, the most combative SetKang himself would participate. Don seemed to be looking forward to it. So he agreed to leave, but not without asking if there were any weight limits or weapon restrictions. Not knowing if he could confidently show his personality. Don was excited. Even SetKang was eagerly anticipating it. And 3 months later, they would laugh until their jaws dropped. SetKang's mother was holding a long staff at this moment. Jinho had just dodged a strike when he realized she was about to kick, but because of the speed, the little guy could only defend against the blow. Jinho refused to back down and retaliated, but SetKang's mother grinned because her hand had blocked the blow. So both continued to spar, unable to find an opening. When they finally separated, both sides were exhausted. After finishing their training, Jinho was rewarded with a cup of coffee. The boy enthusiastically recounted how fun it was at school, and how he had become friends with Ban Bao and Dream. However, SetKang's mother wanted to know if the boy had found a stick, yet because when she descended the mountain, her master had instructed her to bring back a strong man. Therefore, when her husband died, she could only return with such a man. Jinho sweated profusely upon hearing this, wondering where he could find such a person to bring back. Nowadays, people acted as if it were easy. John was currently participating in a match against a lightweight boxer ranked 7th. This was the first time he had faced someone in the top 10. But he wasn't worried because John knew he could handle this golden chicken boy with just a flick of SetKang's finger, so there was no need to worry. The match began, and before the golden chicken boy could land a blow on John's face, he was kicked, leading to a series of developments. They hadn't even hit the ground when they were hit again from below and then thrown back down. In less than 5 seconds, the match was over. John walked straight to his coach, expressing his desire to advance in rank. Fighting these guys was boring, he said, and everything unfolded as planned behind the scenes, with Akira being instructed to add him to the match list. John's overwhelming victory had the students in awe, except for the bald-headed one, who suddenly entered. Seeing the wound on his face, the others couldn't help but be curious, but he acted indifferent, perhaps out of sheer ferocity. Ban Bao and little Era entered the classroom, and his expression remained unchanged until James stepped inside. The bald-headed one suddenly began sweating profusely, remembering the terrifying experience when Benra beat him up, making him want to hide. But then Jino appeared like a god, reminding them not to bully the weak. James seemed tough on the outside, but his hands involuntarily trembled, knowing he couldn't fight back. He could only engage in verbal sparring with the bald-headed one before returning to his seat. However, little Era suddenly sought trouble, teasing James about being bullied by a countryside kid. James tried to deny it, but his trembling hands gave him away, and Era changed targets, wanting to teach Jino a lesson. At lunchtime, Jino looked at his full tray of food, his mouth watering with anticipation. Suddenly, Ban Bao sat down next to the little one, but what caught everyone's attention was the overflowing tray of food. Without saying a word, both of them started competing to see who could eat more. When Jino's stomach was about to burst, and his shirt button was almost popping, Ban Bao managed to eat another full tray. Then, Era sat down opposite Jino, cutting straight to the chase. Having heard that James had been threatened to the point of not being able to lift his head, he immediately arranged to meet the little one on the rooftop after class. Jino didn't understand until Era left. Then he dared to ask Ban Bao what was going on. Except for Jino, everyone could see that Era wanted to fight the little one, which left our guy pondering throughout the class, his gaze fixed on Era. A sleek black car pulled into the school, and the person stepping out and opening the door was Akira. So, it was none other than SetKang who had returned to school. At this moment, Jack was sitting at the table, when Akira and SetKang walked in. Seeing the boss arrive, he immediately stood up to give his seat to him, knowing that SetKang was the one who had arranged a new, mundane job for him. But despite his reluctance, Jack kept silent and merely updated SetKang on the information, letting him know that his mother had recently taken on a disciple. Although he didn't quite understand what his mother was up to, he brushed it off. SetKang, on the other hand, seemed amused by the new job assignment, but noticing Jack's apparent lack of interest, he exchanged the uniform that Akira brought with him. It had been a while since Jack had worn the school uniform. Suddenly, Jack spoke about the plan he was working on, expressing doubts about its success, as he believed it was impossible to find the person they were after. This irritated SetKang. He couldn't comprehend how both Jack and his mother were so adamant about stopping him from seeking revenge for his father's death. That was not a matter to be taken lightly, especially considering that not even the trio could stop him, let alone SetKang himself. Hearing this, SetKang flew into a rage, hurling an object towards Jack, nearly piercing the wall and leaving a mark on Jack's face. Despite the involuntary trembling of his hand, Jack's face remained stoic. SetKang vowed to find the one who killed his father, his determination unwavering. So, no one should dare to interfere. Jino was about to head home to eat the meal cooked by his mother when he was called back by Era. The little one was upset because Jino ignored his words and didn't come to the rooftop as promised. However, Jino just gave Era a glance and left, leaving the little one frustrated and pulling out his wooden sword, running towards Jino to strike at his throat. But Jino just tilted his head, easily avoiding the strike. Despite Era's best efforts, he couldn't land a hit on Jino. At this point, the little one couldn't resist anymore and was about to retaliate, even against a girl, showing no mercy. But suddenly, a timely voice called out Jino's name. It was Akira. Seeing her, the little one excitedly ran over, wanting to take her to eat the meal cooked by his senior sister. However, as soon as Akira mentioned SetKang's mother, she broke into a sweat. Fortunately, seeing that the boss had just finished his work, she hurriedly ran to SetKang's side, as if saved, and drove away. But her expression made the little one contemplate for a while. Seeing Jino standing there with a resolute face, Era asked if he knew the man earlier. That was SetKang, the top figure in the high school, known to everyone in the school because they had watched the video. However, Jino, who had just come down from the mountain, had no access to such luxuries as a phone to watch videos. So Era had to take the country boy home to wash off the dirt and eat kimbap tteokbokki, while lending her phone to Jino to watch the enlightening video. Though he wasn't very interested, the little one was still drawn in by the intense battle between the two. When Era mentioned that SetKang was planning to return to complete his graduation, the little one began to contemplate deeply. Jino had just arrived home when he encountered the headmaster of the school. Living with SetKang's mother, Jino politely greeted the imposing man. Sensing that something was amiss, Jino's mother remained silent. Since there was no training scheduled for that day, she sent the boy to his room to rest. Suddenly, Jino brought up his encounter with Akira and SetKang's son earlier, surprising his mother. However, she still refused to divulge any information. She reiterated that bringing the boy down from the mountain was due to her own child, but now was not the time to discuss it further. Nevertheless, she tasked Jino with a message. If he encountered SetKang, he should instruct him to return home. If persuasion failed, then Jino should use force to compel him back, as there was no other option. SetKang, blinded by revenge, no longer listened to his mother's words. Jino agreed to his mother's request, understanding the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, at the Sunshinerous Corporation, SetKang was already wielding his staff, with Jad ready with 2 knives, and Akira prepared for battle. They were all eager to confront SetKang, driven by their thirst for combat. Akira discreetly retrieved 3 throwing knives and signaled JB and rose to charge forward. But in SetKang's eyes, it all seemed to unfold in slow motion, allowing him to easily evade their attacks. He swiftly dodged to the side to avoid a strike, then swiftly turned, sweeping Jab's arm aside and delivering a punch followed by a combo to Jab's chin. As Akira lunged forward, SetKang effortlessly sidestepped, evading their combined assault. They began to encircle him, which only seemed to amuse SetKang, who chuckled with delight. The scene quickly shifted as the 2 attackers were overwhelmed, while SetKang seemed revitalized, as if he had just taken a leisurely stroll through the park. Meanwhile, in France, 2 fencers were engaged in a duel, with the weaker one being swiftly defeated, a sword piercing his heart. This fencer, known as PA, was skilled but chose not to participate in Olympic competitions due to boredom. Suddenly, an intruder entered the arena and handed PA a red paper with 4 dragons guarding a gem. PA's eyes lit up with excitement. In the United States, John landed a decisive blow on his opponent's neck during a sparring match, only to receive a call from his boss instructing him to return home. He knew a significant fight was imminent. Lastly, in Japan, a mountainous area housed a dojo where a man known as Sifu awaited his disciple. Back in South Korea, at the high school, a flashy car sped down the driveway as if it were owned by a tycoon. Stepping out of it was none other than SetKang, the one who had recently bought the school. Just as he was strutting around, Jino suddenly popped up, wanting to have a heart-to-heart chat with him. Sufi stood on the balcony with her eagle eyes, able to spot sparks flying. Meanwhile, downstairs, Akira was horrified, not understanding what the kid was up to. But catching the gaze of the youngster, he promptly informed SetKang of Jino's identity. However, SetKang couldn't believe his ears. He started scrutinizing the boy, only to find out that the lad standing before him was actually the apprentice of his mother. But Jino didn't bother beating around the bush. He went straight to the point. It was his mother who wanted SetKang to return home, but with a task at hand. The boy turned to leave, but was abruptly called back. In contrast, SetKang's face twisted in disbelief. How could someone dare speak to him like that? Akira attempted to calm the situation, but to no avail. SetKang grew even more furious upon realizing that many witnesses had seen this impudent behavior from Jino towards him. However, Jino remained steadfast and determined, ready to teach SetKang a memorable lesson. SetKang was not only angered but also deeply puzzled by Jino's strength. He wondered how this boy, who seemed tense as a bowstring, possessed such power. Just as things were heating up, Sophie intervened with her icy gaze, which softened upon seeing the girl from the past. However, before there was time for any romantic reverie, Jino brought back the reality. He mentioned the school rules and challenged SetKang to a duel, a rare occurrence that excited him to the point of trembling. SetKang and Akira were assigned to classes from 3rd to 8th grade. The appearance of Jino caused an uproar among the students in the class, But what SetKang cared about the most at that moment was figuring out who Jin-Oh really was. Akira recalled the time when his mother entrusted him to the master before leaving, instructing him to stay and repent. Akira dared not disobey. He obediently followed his mother's orders. He recounted encountering Jin-Oh 2 years prior. At that time, Jin-Oh was already stronger than him, which greatly surprised Akira. He had inadvertently witnessed Jin-Oh training in the woods, where one kick from him left a tree more than half split. Jin-Oh's face was cold and devoid of humanity. In class 1 to 5, Hera approached Jin-Oh's desk to ascertain if he was truly daring to challenge SetKang. However, the boy remained silent as a sheet, his face devoid of any emotion. Outside, the students were bustling with excitement over John's appearance. Instead of heading to the office, the tough guy immediately looked for something to relax with. As soon as John entered the gym, he took off his outer coat, rolled up his sleeves, and started pounding the punching bag. Victor passed by, and hearing the noise, went in to check it out, finding John playing with the bag like a gorilla. Victor inquired about John's recent activities, having heard that he had advanced in rank again, but noticed he wasn't participating in any boxing competitions, unlike the celebrity. John wanted to spar with SetKang, now that he had returned to school. That was the reason for his presence there. He longed for a rematch, but had never managed to land a hit on SetKang's body even once. John remembered the time when he was called to entertain the boss. No matter how hard he punched or kicked, SetKang seemed to effortlessly dodge everything. Even when he was cornered against the wall, John thought he had a chance, but his punch ended up hitting the wall directly. At that moment, he couldn't react in time when he saw SetKang's lightning-fast punch. But SetKang stopped short of hitting him and instead wished him victory in the upcoming match. If John was considered a monster with his brute strength, then what would SetKang be considered? Both of them started feeling a headache coming on. Suddenly, Victor remembered the strange kid who had just returned to school and had promised to have a match with someone. Hearing that Jin-Oh, just a freshman, dared to challenge SetKang, John's face darkened again. As classes ended and others rushed home, Jin-Oh remained seated, his demeanor unchanged, despite the chatter about the upcoming match between him and SetKang. Suddenly, someone from outside pulled the door open and stepped in, causing the students to gasp in surprise. It was John, who had come to find Jin-Oh and see what he was up to. When he looked at the kid in front of him, he suddenly grabbed his head, glaring at him. Jin-Oh's expression remained emotionless, which only made John grip his head tighter. John was quite angry because this kid dared to challenge SetKang. However, just as he was about to do something, someone grabbed SetKang's arm and pulled it up. It was Ban Bao, looking scared but still trying to bravely save his friend. This sudden interruption angered John even more, and he wanted to deal with this situation first. But unexpectedly, Jin-Oh's arm blocked him. Although he pleaded for him to stop, Jin-Oh's face seemed to challenge him, as if saying, "Do you dare to try?" Before John could understand what was happening, Jin-Oh used his hand to twist his abdomen, causing John to be thrown back. He couldn't believe this turn of events. Even though he found it interesting, John was about to advance, but his body didn't obey and he collapsed, feeling intense pain in his abdomen. Normally, it would take a long time for someone to recover from Jin-Oh's blow, but someone like John might only take a few days. Despite Jin-Oh's expectations, John quickly got up, his face showing a mix of surprise and anger. Before he could get worked up, the physical education teacher intervened, warning them both. If they continued causing trouble, their reputation would be ruined. But John didn't care about these boring matters. Right now, the most important thing was the kid in front of him, who seemed quite intriguing. The situation in the 1st to 5th grade classes was extremely tense now, and everyone was cautious. Jin-Oh only had Ban Bao as his confident friend, who dared to ask about his well-being. At this moment, Jin-Oh smiled bitterly, not wanting to attract attention. As they were feeling down, suddenly Henry appeared, as he was the representative for the former students. When Jin-Oh caused trouble, he brought a confirmation document for the upcoming match and asked the kid to sign it. Jin-Oh just looked and then put his pen to sign his name, making Henry wonder if there was anything else he wanted to ask. But Jin-Oh had already decided to sign it. taking advantage of dealing with John before facing SetKang, which was heating up. Inside the gym, the physical education teacher was lecturing John, trying to wake him up from his daze, but was interrupted when he noticed John taking off his shirt, revealing bruises on his body. The teacher had to stay quiet as the appointment time had come. Jinho went with Banbao and Era, and the latter started advising the first graders on how to improve their grades by joining clubs instead of picking fights with John. However, Jinho remained confident and expressionless, believing he wouldn't lose, which surprised both of them. As Jinho began to climb the stands, Era continued to advise him to apologize, but Jinho ignored him and jumped directly onto the stands. Upon seeing him, SetKang became even more excited, and the physical education teacher reminded everyone to control themselves, as it was just a sports match. Then, he shouted to start the match. Jinho quickly delivered a blow, a straight kick to John's head, causing him to fall to the ground. It was a lightning-fast strike that thrilled the audience, including SetKang, who was getting increasingly excited. Jinho gestured for John to come down, eager for more action, but to his surprise, John, who hadn't been knocked out, stood up calmly, astonishing Jinho, who rarely saw anyone withstand his blows. This resilience was why SetKang admired John. Then, John lunged forward, but unfortunately couldn't land a hit, not even touching a single hair of Jinho. Instead, he changed tactics, grabbing Jinho's clothes and legs, pushing him to the ground, and using his powerful body to overwhelm Jinho underneath him. Then came a series of relentless blows that made everyone witnessing it fearful. John didn't stop until the physical education teacher ordered him to. But when he calmed down, he began to feel disbelief at his inability to land a single punch on Jinho, not even a grazing blow across the face. If John had shown his best, it was Jinho's turn now. But how could he give up like that? He grabbed John's hand and pushed it straight down. Before he could even punch Jinho's face, John took a knee straight to the spine. Without a chance to react, he was then struck under the jaw by Jinho. As John kissed the ground, Jinho began to stand up. The two stared each other down. Even SetKang, who was standing above, was stunned. Seeing John smile, he used his hands to prop himself up from the ground to stand. He wasted no time and lunged forward. As he slid past Jinho, the latter leaped up and delivered a blow straight to John's chin. Both regained their balance and started punching each other. But not only did John miss his strikes, but he also received a full blow in return. Seizing the opportunity, Jinho changed tactics, delivering a powerful strike that sent John flying. Despite being kicked, John tried to stay standing, facing the disbelief of the audience. Slowly, Jinho walked over to where John was, right in front of SetKang. With just a touch of his hand, John collapsed unconscious to the ground, while Jinho remained unscathed. And with that, the match came to an end, Jinho emerging victorious. SetKang and Akira left together. SetKang's expression remained stern as usual when he ordered Jinho to be added to the list. The atmosphere inside the car was tense, and it took all of Akira's courage to speak up, albeit hesitantly. Since Jinho wasn't one to easily obey orders, they needed to consult with his mother first. SetKang then ordered the car to turn back home, surprising all three of them. After parking in front of the house, Akira intended to follow inside but was instructed to wait. As SetKang entered, his mother was already waiting there, not bothering to beat around the bush and getting straight to the point. She announced a shocking revelation. If SetKang could defeat Jinho, she would reveal the identity of his father's killer. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Doan ordered his two escorts to stay outside while they entered a hidden location resembling a Canadian ghost town, like the space of a cultivator. Doan swallowed nervously, his sweat mingling with his fear, as he approached the man in front of him, known as Master Wang. Upon meeting Master Wang's deep gaze, Doan trembled, unable to look him in the eye. Master Wang's toothy grin exposed his golden teeth as he cursed. He had previously warned that encountering their kind again would be fatal. This sent shivers down Doan's spine, but he kept his composure, bowing his head in respect. He needed to deliver the message, but knew Master Wang didn't need the details, only that it would determine his fate. Master Wang swiftly seized Doan's neck, his nails digging into his flesh, before snapping his neck with a quick motion. He released Doan's body as soon as he heard that the target was wrong, showing his interest in SetKang's mother, the true target. Doan remained unaware of the involvement of the selected athletes, so he couldn't make any definite statements. On the other side, Akira discussed traditional martial arts, revealing that SetKang's mother was the successor to her predecessor, while Jino was her disciple. There was a warning passed down. If encountering a master of traditional martial arts, it was best to run before things turned worse. This type of martial arts originated from the three powerful kingdoms, the warriors of Studio, the battle-hardened soldiers of Big, and the people of the Xaye tribe. Masters of traditional martial arts gathered the essence from ancient times until now. However, SetKang paid no mind to this, as he couldn't imagine losing to someone like Jino. But Akira couldn't be certain, as she couldn't gauge his strength at the moment or what level he had reached. The only way to find out if he could handle it was to fight. It was a pity to sit here and wait, not knowing what would happen. Jino finally arrived home, intending to talk about today's match, but was interrupted. SetKang's mother suddenly mentioned that the first quality of a successful person was not causing trouble for others, but she herself had broken that rule. Then, SetKang's mother began to recount how, after pleading with their master numerous times, he finally allowed her to leave the mountain. She was very excited to see new things for the first time. Suddenly, someone was knocked down in front of her, attracting her attention, and that was the first time SetKang's mother met her destiny. Suddenly, a group of cars arrived, and some gangsters got out and surrounded them, leading to a confrontation. While SetKang's father was engrossed in the fight, someone attacked with a knife. At that moment, she rushed forward, using her bare hands to catch the knife, injuring her hands and bleeding profusely, but showing no signs of pain on her face. Seeing SetKang's father deal with the last attacker, she immediately turned and left. SetKang's father followed, surprised at how well they complemented each other, and quickly became lovers. That day, after their date, when they returned to the mountain, she bid farewell to SetKang's father happily. However, as soon as she stepped into the temple, she was met with the sight of her master lying defeated under the feet of Master Wang. Doan didn't know who the participants were, so he couldn't be sure and didn't want to speculate. On this side, Akira was talking about traditional martial arts. SetKang's mother, the successor of the previous generation, and Jino, her disciple, were mentioned. There was a warning passed down about encountering a master of traditional martial arts. It was best to run away before things got worse. However, SetKang was not concerned because he never thought he would lose to someone he considered a weakling. But Akira couldn't be sure because she didn't know SetKang's current strength. To find out if he could handle it, they would have to fight. It was a shame to sit around and wait for nothing to happen. Master Wang's prowess was such that he could easily evade all attacks, surprising SetKang's mother, who thought she could match him. However, her master intervened just as she was about to exhaust herself. Yet, Master Wang seemed perverse and amused, indicating that the present moment was not ripe. He was a psychopath who sought worthy opponents, and defeating SetKang's mother's master wasn't satisfying enough. He decided to give SetKang's mother 30 years to train and then have a rematch. From that moment on, she devoted herself to relentless training, while her master tried to dissuade her and advised her to flee from Master Wang's reach. When Jino asked about Master Wang's strength, she hesitantly implied agreement. Sometime later, SetKang's father brought roses to propose to her at the temple, witnessed by her master, and that was how she left the mountain she had grown up on. Jino listened silently as his senior sister recounted the happiest time of her life. SetKang's father was talented, with thousands of underworld connections under his command, and his own company, Sunshine. But conflicts with the Japanese gang and the Chinese triads led to constant battles. When he was surrounded by enemies, he smiled victoriously, knowing his wife was there to support him from above, intervening to resolve the situation, yet still managing to exchange a loving glance with her husband. However, Master Wang once again targeted her when she was pregnant with Jino. Despite her attempts to escape, SetKang's father remained determined not to give up, leading to a confrontation with Master Wang. When SetKang's father demanded to know who had threatened his wife, she feared for him, knowing he stood no chance against Master Wang. Without hesitation, SetKang's father was certain it was Master Wang. which proved correct when his wife admitted it, urging him not to seek death. Despite her panicked pleas, SetKang's father's nature, inherited from his father, was one that couldn't refuse a fight. In the evening at Sunshine, Akira came to report news to the trio about Don. He said he had found the person they were looking for, who held the ultimate martial arts. This made SetKang's mother fearful. While Akira was explaining about the emergence of the ultimate martial arts, he was abruptly interrupted, urged to get to the point. This martial art is the power of China. However, the reason why SetKang's father was murdered on foreign soil is completely unknown, and the fact that he went there alone is also a question mark without an answer. After finishing speaking, Akira began to report the list of participants for the competition. First, there is PA from France, with supreme sword fighting skills. Second is the strongest Brazilian martial artist, Horatia. In China, there are 3 opponents, Don and Master Wang, who hold the ultimate secret, and the mention of Sakura makes Akira uneasy, as he is the founder of Japanese martial arts. His glasses were defeated in battle against him 5 times. SetKang's face showed interest in him. There are also others being arranged on the list, but SetKang is only concerned about their strength. Horatia came to find Captiva to deliver good news to him, about a big man with a large body, but whose face is covered with hair like a forest-dwelling monkey. When he showed no interest, Captiva began to speak to himself. Not only did he win 100 points, but he also needed an additional 2 million for raising it. And the important thing is, you can kill opponents at will. Hearing this, Captiva immediately reacted. Seeing this, Hia added, you can use weapons freely. Upon hearing this, Captiva stood up, revealing various types of hammers on his side. After thinking for a while, he stepped out of the tent, leaving behind a pile of bones next to the fire. On the other side, after being beaten, John was lying in bed, almost unconscious. At this point, only Victor, his loyal friend, was watching over him. The fight wasn't dramatic, just a matter of managing the injuries and perhaps a few broken ribs. John pondered for a while before attempting to sit up again, but the sudden pain engulfed his body, causing him to convulse severely. It would take at least 2 months of rest to recover from this. John remembered the humiliation of losing to that jerk, sweating profusely. Victor couldn't believe John accepted defeat so easily and felt deeply disappointed. However, their bond as friends was strong. Victor wanted to fight Jino to avenge his friend, determined not to lose this time. He decided to use boxing in the match. The next day, Henry was standing at the gate when he saw Jino approaching, trying to sneak a peek at his pants, but the little guy ignored him and just waved him off. Suddenly, Jino was called back and snapped a photo by a kid, a sports magazine reporter who heard Jino defeated John and wanted to get some news. The kid cursed at Jino and then left, still feeling bitter. Henry then saw Victor passing by, but he also ignored him. Then, he witnessed both of them whispering to each other, knowing that something big was about to happen at the boxing club. Meanwhile, James was practicing punching a sandbag with all his might, but he stopped when he saw Victor. What surprised him was that Jino was sneaking behind Victor. James was perplexed because Jino seemed to be lured into a trap, clearly wanting to talk, but the other guy was cunning. Instead of conversing, the man wanted to use his fists to communicate, wanting to know the difference between them and Jino. The little guy was about to refuse when Victor, without caring about his pride, insisted on sparring once. Reluctantly, Jino had to agree, unable to say a word. Meanwhile, nobody paid attention to the reporter outside the window, waiting for news while both were on the stage. While Victor was getting ready, Jino was standing there, looking dazed. Seeing this, James handed the gloves to Victor to use against the little guy. With no other choice but to comply, Jino accepted the gloves from both sides. Suddenly, the two of them were forced into an awkward situation, neither looking at the other. Suddenly, James spoke up, saying that the kid should feel honored because the boxing champion had challenged a new opponent, like he had just seen. Victor immediately became enthusiastic and wanted to start the fight right away. This was Jino's first encounter with the sport of boxing, so they agreed to fight 3 rounds of 3 minutes each. The kid was also eager to finish quickly. The bell rang to start the match. Victor wanted to maintain dominance, so he attacked first, aiming directly at the kid's face. However, Jino managed to evade all of Victor's punches. Just as Victor threw a straight punch from the outside in, Jino fell backward, taking advantage of the tilt of his unsteady body. Victor rushed in to dominate, intending to end the fight with a straight punch from above. However, this plan completely failed as Jino sidestepped to the left and regained balance. At the same time, his leg swung and hit Victor's face. Jino momentarily forgot it was a boxing match, hence the accidental use of his leg, but luckily there was a rule against it. With time running out and only 10 seconds left, Victor exerted all his strength to try to defeat Jino, but the kid was too quick and managed to evade everything. With just 5 seconds left, Victor aimed to land a finishing blow, but Jino also moved in. Their fists collided for a brief moment, and in the last second, Jino managed to bring his fist close to Victor's face, narrowly avoiding defeat. The bell signaling the end of the match rang, startling James, who had been focused on the fight. The two of them had a minute to rest and recover, just standing there, both feeling the tension of the intense match, except Jino, whose face remained completely calm, not a drop of sweat falling. At that moment, SetKang arrived at the school riding his supercar. The second round of the match began. Victor circled Jino in 2 rounds to disorient him. At the opportune moment, he launched a surprise attack, but what surprised him even more was that Jino managed to evade it effortlessly. Victor gave him an admiring glance. Seeing Jino's confident stance, Victor stepped back, quickly keeping his distance. Meanwhile, the journalist, after recording with their phone, switched to their camera. Just as they were capturing footage, SetKang approached. They thought they were caught, but seeing him in his school uniform, they ignored him and continued filming. SetKang noticed this and signaled Akira. She quickly approached and demanded the camera, repeatedly insisting, but the journalist resisted. Akira grabbed it directly without further ado. While the journalist was still confused about what was happening, she took out the memory card and walked away. Seeing this, the journalist threatened to report to the principal for daring to strip someone naked. But Akira responded with a bold statement that everyone knew this was his school, so they should mind their own business. When the two of them left, the journalist suddenly realized they might have just encountered SetKang from Sunshine School. Victor was completely on the defensive, enduring a series of blows. Suddenly, everything stopped and they thought it was over. But then Jino unleashed a direct spinning punch at Victor. Despite being in a defensive position, the force was too great, causing Victor to lose his balance and stumble backward. Victor was pushed to the brink, still reeling, when he saw Jino relentlessly pursuing him like a ghost, about to deliver another blow. Just as he was about to strike, James intervened, calling for a halt, as Victor had another fight coming up and couldn't afford to be injured. Hearing this, Jino lowered his hand. At this point, after experiencing defeat, he accepted it graciously, with a sense of admiration. Just as Jino was about to remove his gloves and leave, SetKang and Akira approached. SetKang didn't forget to give him his trademark smile and ordered the attendant to open the door. Akira frowned, looking somewhat malicious, but she had to obey the order and gestured for the attendant to open the door so they could enter. Then SetKang could not resist and went inside. Looking up at the stands, he couldn't hold back any longer and immediately wanted to fight Victor. Even if it meant risking his life, he never expected this to happen. But Jino was also eager for battle, so he called SetKang up. However, who was he to SetKang? He had to listen to Jino. If he wanted to fight, he had to leave the arena first before they could have a brawl. Of course, he also had to remove that restrictive glove. The little guy complied, removing the glove as requested, tossing it to the ground and stomping on the barrier before leaping down. Both their faces were already ablaze with excitement even before they squared off. Jino immediately asked if they were playing by any rules or if it was a free-for-all, but rules were something SetKang never played by. His thirst for battle made Jino shudder, not expecting someone so daring. Then SetKang decided the match could begin. Before Jino could comprehend what was happening, he received a punch to the face from SetKang. Just as he was about to react, he was already thrown off balance, his body slipping backward, while SetKang's triumphant face grinned at him, trying to maintain his balance. At that moment, the young reporter outside heard the sound of fighting, so he rushed in to check it out. Little did he know, he was in for a surprise when he witnessed the chaos unfolding, or rather the two of them biting and scratching like wild animals. Just when everything seemed chaotic, Jack suddenly appeared, summoning her back. Seeing the principal lurking behind him, the young reporter's face flushed with embarrassment, but Jack's attention was focused on SetKang, who was laughing triumphantly. Then, the two continued to clash fiercely. Neither was able to land a decisive blow, and observing this scene, Jack could only shake his head in dismay, not saying a word. He ordered the young reporter to write an article, then led him upstairs to have tea. But as they were about to leave, Jack's stern presence drew everyone's attention, causing SetKang to demand he leave them alone and not interfere. Jack remained firm, reminding them they were still at school and had to obey the rules, even though it was his school. Regardless, with his position as principal, he had to manage things properly, despite the bitterness. Jino reluctantly complied, knowing he wasn't a troublemaker. If it weren't for being at school, he would have left long ago. But then, SetKang called him back, not to continue the fight, but to find out who was stronger, his mom or himself. Jino pondered for a moment, intending to speak, but then decided against it, declaring that no matter who, he wouldn't lose. Upon receiving this response, SetKang suddenly burst into joyous laughter like a wild monkey. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the three-headed demon in Japan, Mr. Sakura sat sipping tea when Doan walked in cheerfully. The two glared at each other without a word, until someone barged in and disrupted the tense atmosphere. It was PA with his unmistakable orange head, demanding to be served tea. This angered Doan, who slammed the cup onto the table, wanting to smash it into his throat. Before he could even sit down, Horia and Captiva arrived, their eyes fixed on the forest man who had just appeared. All attention shifted to him, leaving PA bewildered, thinking he had stumbled into the wrong place. As SetKang's mother appeared, those who knew her were greatly surprised, while PA, oblivious, assumed she was lost. Seeing SetKang's mother here reminded Doan of the encounter 2 years ago, when he faced the appearance of a mysterious and powerful entity, his own mother. After scanning the room and not finding Master Wang, Doan was startled, realizing he was sweating profusely. Upon realizing Master Wang wasn't there, he quickly asked PA to pass on a message that she was looking for him. As a sinister presence loomed behind him, it seemed as if a malevolent spirit had appeared. At home, Jino had just woken up and immediately went downstairs to look around, but found no one. So, he headed to the basement to meditate, where memories of his recent fight with SetKang flooded his mind. Just as he blocked one of Jino's strikes, the little one furrowed his brows, took a deep breath, and realized he couldn't focus. Thus, he left the basement. The next day, students chattered about the newspapers distributed, reporting on Victor's fight with a student at school, with Jino's name also mentioned. They wondered who fought Victor while Jino was passing by. On his way to school, SetKang was furious, crumpling the newspaper for daring to report on the chairman of Sunshine getting into a fight at school. Moreover, another newspaper mentioned Yongjin, which he knew was Jack's way of provoking him. Meanwhile, in the inspection room, Sophie's father had also read those newspapers and was suddenly interrupted by an important financial report about Sunshine. He broke into a cold sweat upon opening it, not knowing who sent it. Then, he received a call from Principal Jack, requesting him to quickly arrest SetKang and have him jailed. Sophie's father couldn't believe it. Jack wanted to countermand orders, but it was the only way to prevent SetKang from making a mistake that could lead to his death. This shocked Sophie's father to the core. Switching to the school scene, Jino was sitting there dejectedly when Ara came by to inquire about the news. Jack then arrived to invite Jino to his office for tea. Before even sitting down, Jack got straight to the point, discussing Jino's recent involvement in brawls. Then he handed Jino a letter from SetKang's mother, leaving Jino wide-eyed. It was a letter from SetKang's mother, asking Jino to take care of the mess his friend caused until she returned. After reading it, Jino asked what had happened to SetKang's sister, but Jack only said she had gone to Japan, uncertain of her safety. Though the news was grim, Jin-oh remained unfazed. He wasn't worried about SetKang's mother, but was 100% sure that if it was his sister, no one could touch her. His confidence surprised Jack immensely. With Jin-oh's reassurance, Jack felt relieved, realizing that his elder sister was even more formidable than a shark, so there was no need to worry. Here, SetKang was sitting in his car feeling as if he were on cloud 9, with only Bot driving and noticing someone following them. Without hesitation, SetKang instructed Bot to swerve into the adjacent lane, but the follower persisted. It wasn't until then that Bot informed SetKang they were being trailed, but he brushed it off and continued without paying attention to them. As SetKang stepped out of the car at the airport, the vehicles tailing him also pulled up and a crowd poured out. Amidst the chaos, Sophie's father suddenly appeared, causing SetKang to freeze in place. He was then seized and taken to the interrogation room, where both parties exchanged glances. When Sophie's father reluctantly took out a stack of documents, SetKang couldn't believe his eyes. These were the evidence of Sunshine's fraudulent business practices, involving a sum of $15 million. Ignoring Sophie's father's tirade, SetKang focused on examining the documents meticulously from top to bottom before throwing them back. His nonchalant demeanor suggested that he was merely the company's CEO, and if they wanted to discuss further, they should contact the company's lawyers. Seeing SetKang intending to shirk responsibility, Sophie's father erupted in anger, but SetKang responded carefully, silencing him. SetKang was no longer the naive boy from 2 years ago, a fact that startled Sophie's father. Realizing the tension, Sophie's father hurriedly left to consult with his colleagues because without an arrest warrant, SetKang could be released soon. However, obtaining such a warrant would be difficult as the source of the information and evidence they had wasn't credible. Therefore, the only option at present was to impose loose confinement, preventing SetKang from leaving the country during the investigation. At the Royal Hotel in Japan, SetKang's mother reminisced about a time when he was just in middle school, still obedient, and with a smile that wasn't as mischievous as it is now. Suddenly, a car stopped in front of the shop, and SetKang's father stepped out, claiming it was on his way to drop by and visit both mother and son. He then peeked inside to see how much his son had grown, flashing a warm smile that couldn't fool SetKang's mother. She knew for sure her husband must have come from a far-off place to drop by, though he wouldn't admit it, diverting the conversation to wanting to live together as a family again, just like before. He expressed his desire to turn Sunshine into a legitimate conglomerate, wanting to become a model father figure for SetKang. Sensing her mother's desire to know the real reason, he embraced her briefly before leaving in the car. SetKang's mother always regretted not stopping him back then. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. When she opened it, she found the bespectacled boy and Mr. Sakura standing there. Mr. Sakura, the heir to the traditional Japanese martial art, had the audacity to ask for martial arts guidance from SetKang's mother, just days before the tournament. However, he quickly revealed that he wasn't particularly interested in such competitions. He simply wished to expand his knowledge. Seeing this, SetKang's mother instructed the bespectacled boy to find a quiet place instead. So, everyone went up to the rooftop to enjoy the breeze. At this point, Mr. Sakura was already clad in combat attire. After announcing that the fight was about to begin, he reached behind and drew out 4 shurikens, aiming them straight at SetKang's mother. These small objects seemed to move in slow motion, but gently enough for her eyes to dodge them. Not stopping there, he launched another 4 shurikens. This time, SetKang's mother didn't intend to dodge, but gracefully maneuvered her body to evade the projectiles, which pierced through the gaps in her body and embedded themselves directly into the wall, right where the bespectacled boy was standing. Just as she regained her balance and looked up, she saw Mr. Sakura wielding a flying chain weapon heading her way. Before it could land, a star-shaped shuriken hurled straight at him, fortunately just grazing his face, leaving a mark. Seizing the opportunity, she swiftly countered with a powerful kick, intending to finish him off. However, Mr. Sakura, with his agile reflexes, managed to evade the blow, maintaining his advantageous position. Seeing her opponent still standing, SetKang's mother decided to level the playing field by revealing a hidden weapon. Suddenly, she unbuttoned her shirt, shocking Mr. Sakura. Behind that layer of clothing, something twisted around her waist. Quickly grabbing it, she pulled out a whip, which transformed into a shining double-bladed sword. SetKang's mother demanded to know what Mr. Sakura was plotting, then assumed a defensive stance, ready to end the colorful character's life before her. At this moment, Jin-Oh was still in the basement practicing, planting banana trees and doing push-ups before landing on the ground with a somersault. He quickly checked if his body was in good shape yet, realizing it wasn't enough. Planning to strike a few poses for self-admiration, he suddenly turned to look at the staircase behind him, calling out for Akira. As he was caught in the act, Jin-Oh faced the consequence of revealing himself. Seeing Akira's discomfort, Jin-Oh took the initiative to speak up, acknowledging that Akira was the one who sent him here, but not necessarily to continue the fight. This time, Akira handed him an envelope. SetKang would be waiting for Jin-Oh in Japan. Jin-Oh became eager and excited, but before he could express his thoughts, Akira interrupted, asking if his senior sister was also in Japan. After confirming, Jin-Oh agreed, but with a condition. Akira, still uncertain about Jin-Oh's intentions, looked at him with sparkling eyes, wanting to experience a flight once in his lifetime and share the news with others. After Akira left, Jin-Oh revealed his true face. Before this, he had only pretended to be cute.